They showed up at my apartment door just after sunset, each of them holding a suitcase like they'd come straight from the airport. My dad didn't even say hello, just announced, "We lost the house. We need to stay here for a few weeks." Before I could respond, they walked past me, dragging their luggage inside as if the place already belonged to them. I stood there frozen, not yet knowing the real reason they had come. Growing up, I learned early that in my family, responsibility wasn't shared, it was assigned. And it was assigned to me. I was the independent one, the kid who didn't need much, the daughter who would be fine no matter what. Logan, on the other hand, wasn't just loved. He was groomed, praised, protected, shaped into some imagined prodigy my parents were convinced would change the world one day. When I was 8, Logan got accepted into a private academy. I remember sitting in the back seat while my parents talked about tuition like it was an investment portfolio. When I asked if I could go too, my mother laughed and said, "Sweetheart, you're practical. You'll thrive anywhere." That was the first time I realized practical wasn't a compliment, it was a label that meant less deserving. Logan's summers were filled with robotics camps, leadership retreats, and specialized programs that cost more than our annual grocery budget. Mine were spent at the public library, working on free online courses, or helping my grandmother in her yard. When I asked if I could join one of those camps even once, my dad told me, "Those programs are for kids with dreams. You don't need them." The gap widened as we grew older. Logan got a brand new car at 16, a shiny silver sedan with a ribbon on top. The same day, my parents handed me a bus pass and said, "This will teach you responsibility." I bought my first car at 19 after working double shifts at a diner and saving every tip in a jar under my bed. Anytime Logan did something, anything, he was celebrated. If he said he wanted to be an entrepreneur, he was visionary. If I said I wanted a stable job, I was playing it safe. When he dropped out of college to pursue his passion, they applauded. When I switched majors after realizing my degree wasn't the right fit, my mom whispered to a family friend, "Avery's a bit lost these days." Despite everything, I kept showing up for them. When my mom had her gallbladder surgery, I took a week off work to stay with her because Logan couldn't disrupt his process. When my dad hurt his back, I helped cover the physical therapy sessions insurance didn't pay for. Every time Logan's startups fell apart, and they always did, my parents came to me with soft voices and guilty eyes, asking if I could loan him a little money until he got back on his feet. None of those loans ever returned. They evaporated the moment they left my bank account. But I told myself it was family. That family helped each other. That someday it would all even out. But slowly, something shifted. Over the years, my parents' tone toward me changed. They didn't ask about my job unless it related to how much I earned. They never visited my apartment, never asked if I needed help, never seemed interested in my life unless it benefited Logan. When I mentioned feeling worn out from carrying so much, my mother responded, "But you've always handled things so well." That sentence felt less like praise and more like a prison cell. And then came the distance. Subtle at first, fewer texts, fewer calls, Logan taking center stage in every conversation. But eventually, it became obvious. I wasn't their priority, I was their safety net. I wasn't the child they cherished, I was the backup plan they relied on. So when they suddenly appeared at my door that night claiming they lost their home, a part of me already knew something about their story didn't add up. The years of favoritism, the endless excuses for Logan, the financial lies they sugar-coated, I had seen enough patterns to know nothing in this family ever crumbled without a reason. But even then, even after everything, I still didn't imagine the truth would be as devastating, or as calculated, as what I was about to uncover. The first week with my parents in my apartment felt like living with polite intruders, until it didn't feel polite anymore. By day 3, They had rearranged my kitchen cabinets for efficiency, taken over my living room to host two of my aunts for coffee without asking, and somehow managed to sign into my gym app and use my membership as if it were theirs. My own home started to feel like a hotel lobby they had purchased rights to. One morning, I walked into the kitchen to find my mother wiping down the counters like she owned the place. "Avery," she said, "your spices were in the wrong order. I fixed them for you." The wrong order. In my home. But the real issue wasn't the spices or the gym pass or the constant stream of relatives who just happened to be in the area. It was the fact that I still didn't know why they were really there. So one evening, after another long day of coming home to people who felt less like parents and more like squatters, I asked, "Dad," I said gently, "what actually happened with the house? With the mortgage? The insurance? What exactly did you lose?" Richard didn't look up from his phone. "It was complicated." "Okay," I pressed. "Explain it to me." He lifted his hand dismissively. "You wouldn't understand. The market shifted, the bank pushed us out. It's done." My mother chimed in from the sofa, "Don't stress your father. We're here now, that's what matters." What mattered to them was that I didn't ask more questions. But the tone, the evasiveness, the way they skirted around specifics, it was familiar. It was the same way they acted every time Logan destroyed another business or lost another investment. I vented to Kara the next day at lunch. She listened, stirring her iced coffee with that look she gets when she's about to say something brutally logical. "Avery," she said, "have you checked property records?" I blinked. "No." "Why would I?" "Because your parents don't act like people who lost a house," she replied. "They act like people who expect you not to question them." The sentence sat in my chest like a weight. By the next morning, I had booked an appointment with a local real estate attorney, Ms. Halpern. She was direct, efficient, and disturbingly calm as she clicked through the documents on her monitor. "Your parents didn't lose their home," she said. "They sold it." I stared at her. "Sold? For how much?" She turned the screen toward me. $820,000. My breath caught. "Where did the money go?" "Wire transfer," she said, clicking again. "Straight into an account under the name Logan Collins." I felt the room tilt. "All of it?" She nodded. "Every dollar." And just when I thought it couldn't get worse. "That account," she added, pulling up another file, "was used almost immediately for an investment tied to a company that, well, legally speaking, barely exists. A shell company. A scam. Logan's latest vision. And my parents had willingly emptied their lives into it." When I returned home, my parents were watching TV as if nothing in their world had collapsed. I turned off the screen. "We need to talk," I said. My mother frowned. "Avery, don't be dramatic." I held up the documents. "You didn't lose your home. You sold it. And you gave everything to Logan." They exchanged a brief glance, one of those silent, defeated looks that revealed more truth than their words ever would. Marilyn recovered first. "You don't understand. Logan needed an opportunity," I finished. "Yes. I've heard that my whole life." "Sweetheart, you're always fine," she said. "You have a good job. You don't need help the way he does." Gaslighting wrapped in affection, her specialty. "I'm done funding his mistakes," I said firmly. "And I'm not supporting you financially either." Richard stood abruptly, his face flushing red. "We raised you. We've sacrificed." "For him," I snapped. "Always him." "You ungrateful girl," he hissed. After everything we've done, you're abandoning your family? For once, I said quietly, I'm choosing myself. It was the first time I saw true anger in my father's eyes. And the first time he realized I wasn't going to bend anymore. Kara didn't hesitate once I told her everything. That same night, she came over with her laptop, a stack of sticky notes, and the kind of focus she usually saved for high-stakes project deadlines. Together, we pulled every document Ms. Halpern had given me, sale records, tax transfers, wire statements, and laid them out across my coffee table. Kara cross-checked them with public filings and property tax data, connecting dates, signatures, and transfers like she was mapping a crime scene. Your parents didn't just help Logan, she said quietly, tapping a highlighted line. They emptied themselves out for him. Completely. My phone rang the next morning. It was Grandma Ruth, a woman who almost never called unless something was truly wrong. Her voice trembled as she said, Avery, honey, your parents didn't tell you everything. You don't know how bad things are. A chill ran down my back. Grandma, what's going on? She hesitated. I could hear her choosing her words carefully. Logan didn't just use the money. He took out a massive loan using that new house as collateral. He told your parents it was necessary to scale his vision. I closed my eyes. How much of the house did he leverage? Almost all of it, she whispered. And now the company he invested in, well, it folded last month. The creditors are coming. They're preparing to seize the house. For a moment, all I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. So they didn't lose the home they sold, I murmured. They're about to lose the one they bought for him. Ruth exhaled shakily. Your parents are panicking. They think you'll fix it. They've always believed you'd fix everything. There it was. The truth I had spent years pretending not to see. To my parents, I was never the backup plan, I was the only plan. The reliable one. The steady one. The daughter who didn't need help because she was the help. And now, facing the consequences of choices they made for Logan, they were ready, without guilt, without hesitation, to dump it all onto me. Again. I hung up the phone and sat in my silent living room, surrounded by Kara's sticky notes and printed documents. The pieces finally clicked into place, sharper than any betrayal I'd felt before. My parents hadn't come to me because they were desperate. They came because they expected me to save them. They assumed I would. They always did. Kara sat beside me, watching my breathing go shallow. Avery, she said softly, this isn't your disaster to fix. I nodded, but something deeper was shifting inside me, something like a slow, steady rise of clarity. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking how to help them. I was asking how to protect myself. I looked at the documents again, then at the closed bedroom door where my parents were sleeping comfortably in my space as if it were theirs. That's it, I whispered. I'm done being the safety net. I'm done cleaning up their messes. I'm done pretending this is love. The realization wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was calm. Cold. Final. I stood up, feeling a strange strength settle into my bones. I wasn't preparing to save them. I was preparing to confront them. Not to rescue anyone, but to finally rescue myself. I scheduled the meeting for Saturday afternoon, neutral ground, a co-working office Kara reserved for me. No surprises, no excuses, no running from the truth. When my parents and Logan arrived, they looked confused to see Ms. Halpern, my attorney, seated beside me. I didn't bother softening the moment. We're going to talk, I said. All of us. And we're going to do it honestly. Logan rolled his eyes. Avery, if this is about the house, it's about everything, I cut in. I started with the documents: the sale of their home, the $820,000 transfer to Logan, the shell company receipts. One by one, I spread the papers across the table. Logan's glossy expenses glared up at us: his Tesla purchase, the co-working penthouse lease, the $12,000 networking retreat in Miami, the endless designer subscriptions. My mother gasped. "Logan, what is all this?" He shrugged, clearly irritated. "It was business. You have to invest in yourself." Mrs. Halpern slid another stack forward. "And the house Logan used as collateral for an unsecured private loan. That debt is currently in default." My parents paled. I kept going. "Here's the part where you told the neighbors I'd buy you a new house," I said, showing a screenshot someone had sent Kara. Marilyn turned white. "That's taken out of context," she whispered. "No," I said, "it's exactly in context." Richard slammed his palm on the table. "Why are you attacking us? We raised you. We gave you everything." That was almost funny. "You gave Logan everything," I corrected. "You gave me responsibilities. Debt. Expectations. Excuses. And every time you made a bad decision, you looked at me to fix it. That's what family does." Richard barked. "No," I said, my voice steady, "family doesn't lie, manipulate, and drain someone until they break. And I'm done being your solution." Marilyn's eyes filled with tears, predictable and dramatic. "Avery, sweetheart, you're overreacting. Logan needs support. He's fragile." Logan immediately pointed toward her. "This isn't my fault. You two told me Avery would help. You said she always fixes things." The room fell silent. My father turned on me again. "You think you're better than us? Better than helping your own brother?" "I don't think I'm better," I said. "I just refuse to destroy my life because you made stupid, reckless choices. I am not your backup plan. I'm not your retirement fund. I'm not your financial safety net. And I am done." Richard's face twisted with rage I'd never seen before. "You ungrateful." Then his hand flew faster than I could react. The slap cracked through the room like breaking glass. My cheek burned. My eyes watered, not from the hit, but from the stunning clarity of what it meant. Logan froze. Marilyn screamed. Kara moved toward me, but I raised a hand to stop her. I took out my phone and dialed. "Hello, yes. I'd like to report an assault." My father's face drained of color. Within minutes, officers arrived, professional, calm, efficient. They listened, took statements, looked over the documents, and the redness blooming across my face. When they asked whether I wanted my parents removed from my residence and warned never to return, I answered without hesitation. "Yes." Marilyn sobbed as they escorted her out. Richard stared at me like he didn't recognize the person standing before him. Logan stood in the doorway long after they were gone, wide-eyed, swallowing hard, as if realizing, for the first time, that I wasn't the one who would come in and clean up this disaster for him. He didn't say a word. Neither did I. When the door shut behind him, the silence in the apartment was profound. It wasn't loneliness. It wasn't guilt. It was freedom, solid, quiet, and well-earned. For the first time in my life, I was no longer the family's fixer, the emotional janitor, the endless support beam holding up people who refused to stand on their own. I had finally stepped out of the role they wrote for me. And I wasn't going back. In the weeks that followed, the fallout hit my family harder than even I expected. Logan's house, my parents' investment, was foreclosed on within days of the bank's final notice. The glossy lifestyle he'd built on borrowed money vanished almost overnight. His Tesla was repossessed, the office lease terminated, and the so-called business partners he bragged about were nowhere to be found. With nowhere else to go, he moved in with my grandmother Ruth, who, despite everything, still had a softer heart than any of them deserved. My parents ended up there too. The same people who once bragged about their smart financial planning were now sleeping in the guest room of the woman they'd ignored for years. Grandma Ruth later told me my father had become quiet, humbled in a way she had never seen. My mother was overwhelmed with shame, not because of what they'd done, but because people in their social circle now knew the truth. For the first time in my life, I didn't rush in to fix anything. I didn't offer money. I didn't offer solutions. I didn't offer comfort. And that felt healing. Not vindictive, just necessary. Logan eventually got a job, an actual job, at a local hardware store. The same brother who once called me boring for liking stability was now stocking shelves at 6 in the morning. I didn't celebrate his downfall, but I also didn't cushion it. Reality had finally caught up to him, and for once, it wasn't my job to soften the blow. My parents spent months meeting with financial advisors, lawyers, and community leaders to repair the damage their choices had caused. It was the first time they had to face consequences without me absorbing the impact. And though I didn't watch it happen directly, knowing they were confronting the results of their decisions brought me a sense of balance I had never felt before. As for me, I finally invested in myself. I kept going to therapy, learning how to untangle guilt from obligation, and obligation from love. I moved into a new apartment, brighter and bigger than the last one, chosen entirely on my own terms. I put plants by the windows, bought new furniture, and created a space that felt like peace instead of pressure. One evening, sitting in my new living room with a cup of tea, I realized something important. Forgiveness wasn't about pretending the past hadn't happened. It wasn't letting them back into my life to cause more damage. It was simply letting go of the idea that I owed them anything more than the truth. I wasn't responsible for their mistakes. I wasn't their safety net. And I never would be again. For the first time in my life, my future was fully, completely mine. Looking back, I've realized that revenge doesn't always come as fire or fury. Sometimes it's simply the act of stepping out of the cycle you were never meant to carry, choosing peace instead of chaos, choosing yourself instead of people who only loved what you could give them. Family isn't defined by shared blood or last names, it's defined by respect, accountability, and showing up. If you've ever been used, overlooked, or expected to sacrifice parts of yourself just to keep others afloat, please know this: you're not alone, and you're not wrong for walking away. If my story resonates with you, share it. Leave a comment so others can feel less isolated in their own experiences. And if you want more raw, honest family revenge stories, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next one.